Hello, my wonderful, beautiful friends. Guys, welcome back to r/EntitledPeople, where people truly believe it's all about them and no one else matters. And in today's episode, it's another wild one. We've got Karens getting yelled at, getting arrested in airports, one OP goes to war with an entitled neighbor, and another pranks his brother, and it goes completely sideways. Guys, I hope you enjoy the stories today. Don't shake your heads too hard, and as always, you can send or link your post to this email right here. Let's dive in. So this story of mine happened about a year ago, and I don't think I'll ever forget what happened that day. I used to work at this certain coffee corporation. You know, the one that pretty much rules over the world and rhymes with Star Trucks. I was the shift supervisor, and my store had this regular Karen customer that would come in every single day, and there was always something to yell at us about. Her coffee was too hot, the tables are gross, it's too loud, there's too many people, we're all out to get her, etc. The woman was really OCD, and she freaked out if you so much as got a splash of water on the side of her cup. Well, after about 2 years of dealing with this nasty woman and biting my tongue and trying my best to give her the best experience she can get, one day I just snapped. I saw this woman in line, and I immediately braced myself for impact. I tried to do everything for her the way she wants it, and of course, it backfires. She usually liked to put the lids on herself, so instead of snapping it on, I just set it on top and informed her of what I did. She then asked me why I did that, and I told her I'm just trying to be convenient to her. Well, this Karen just starts yelling at me, telling me that I'm trying to burn her on purpose and get her sent to the hospital, and how she's gonna go complain to corporate as she always does. She then said my ass should have been fired a long time ago. And then said, how about you just go home and get someone else to take care of me? And I literally lost it at her ungrateful attitude. I respond with, how about you stop being such an effing bitch? As soon as I said that, instantly the store got quiet, and at this point, I'm on an effing roll. So I just start yelling at this customer, venting all of my 2 years of pent-up aggression. My other supervisor had to drag me off the floor to calm down, and I just turned the keys over and left. As I'm walking out, I'm like, yay, there goes my effing job, even though I felt amazing about it. I even called my boss and told him what happened, and his only response was, oh boy, I knew this thing was gonna happen. In the end, I got a write-up and I didn't lose my job, even though that Karen was doing her damn hardest to get both me and my boss fired. But there's also some good that came of this. You see, this lady has a track record in our entire district of being a nasty customer, and this final issue was enough to get her banned from every store in our district. I will admit, I could have handled things better, but amazing things came of it. So the moral of the story is don't take anyone's crap. That's exactly it. And seriously, everyone has a breaking point, and being yelled at every single day by a rude customer no matter what you do, I'm honestly surprised OP bit their tongue for that long before losing it on her. But yeah, here's to hoping Karen learned a lesson, but probably not, right? She probably just boycotted the coffee chain, and she's still acting like she's the victim in all of this. This person shares a similar Karen encounter. I work at a local grocery store with pretty casual vibes, but an older store with pretty old infrastructure. Well, on some occasions, if we're busy enough, our point of sale systems will start to get bogged down, causing a pretty significant delay in all aspects of the POS system, like processing your payments to the actual printing of the receipt. I'm always apologetic when this happens, and typically, I try to explain to the customer that I'm just waiting for the system to do its thing. One day, I was waiting on the printer, and my customer asked me for the receipt. Our system's been on the struggle bus all day. So I reply, my apologies, our printer tends to get bogged down during the busy hours, but she's been struggling all day. At this, the woman looks at me with a straight face, and she says, who? And before I can answer, she goes on and says, who has been struggling all day? Me, with a small chuckle, say, "Oh, no ma'am, I was just talking about the printer." Karen then says, "Why does the printer need to be a girl? Are you saying that women are slow?" Me, not understanding this person is seriously angry, say, "Her name is Sheba." She then says, "I didn't ask what you named it, idiot. I'm asking why you think it's okay to gender something. Tell me why that machine is a girl." At this point, I'm realizing that she's in fact serious about this, and I just say, "My apologies, I won't ever do that again." It's far too late though. At this point, she starts lecturing me on proper customer service and how to properly address and talk to customers as I scan and bag the next customer's things, who, mind you, has heard the entire conversation the ladies had with me. That's when the other customer chimes in and says, "Why did you name her Sheba?" I respond, "Because it's a Toshiba printer." The customer then laughs and I laugh, and Karen goes to the manager to complain. The manager comes over after she leaves and tells me that Karen wants me to take classes on customer service, and she wants to see proof of me enrolled in that class. He then joins my customer and myself laughing about the whole ordeal. So this didn't happen today, but it happened back in January. My wife and I went to Orlando for my birthday. The actual trip was great. It was a bit colder than expected, but still a fantastic time. Until we got to the airport to fly home, that is. That's where I accidentally triggered a Karen by accident. You'll soon find out. We got there with a ton of time to spare, but it was packed and security was a nightmare. We get up to the metal detectors and the X-ray machines, and we proceed to unpack all of our crap into the bins and start the process of going through the security checkpoint. My wife goes first, and she gets pulled aside for further screening, leaving me to gather our mass of belongings in the bins. So I grab my MacBook and I cram it in my wife's purse. I grab her carry-on, her shoes, her belt, and coat. My hands are nearly full at this point, but the machine just keeps spitting the bins out and people behind us are pissed at the delay. So I start fumbling to grab my bag, my shoes, my belt, and wallet, and oh crap, I almost forgot my MacBook. At this point, I'm way overloaded, but the people behind don't give a damn. So I try to shuffle to the side and wait for my wife to get done with her screening. In the process of doing this, I drop about 3/4 of the crap I had. So I began organizing things a bit, putting my MacBook in my backpack with wallet and rearranging all of my wife's things so I can get it down to a manageable amount. That's when, oh crap, I almost dropped my MacBook. So I decide to hold it directly in my hands until my wife can help me with our junk. While I'm doing this, the woman behind me starts shrieking at the top of her lungs that her laptop is missing, that she can't find it, and it was here before it went through the machine. She then marches up to me and she tries to snatch my MacBook out of my hands, but I flip it around to show her my piranha plant sticker to prove it's mine. She then goes back to flip out at the TSA guy working the X-ray machine, accusing him of being shady and stealing her stuff. That's when my wife comes up and we proceed to grab our stuff and go to the food court area down the way. We grab some food at the restaurant close by and I tell her about the woman trying to take my MacBook, which gave her a good laugh. I surf the web for a bit and then decide to pack the MacBook away for the flight. And when I went to go put the computer in the pouch I always keep it in, there was already a MacBook there. That's when it all clicked at once what must have happened. So I go return it to the woman. I get back to the security station and I find that she's pinned to the floor in handcuffs and she's bawling her eyes out because she was apparently getting arrested for attacking multiple TSA agents. At this point, I don't know what to do, so I just walk up to one of the cops that was handling her and I said, I think I grabbed her laptop by mistake, and then hand it to him. Through her tears, she bawls out that I was a thief and the cop should arrest me, not her. And that's when one of the cops said, "Lady, he just brought this back to you. If he's a thief, he's the worst damn thief I've ever seen." Like I said, I didn't know what to do, so I just said sorry a couple of times and the cop shooed me away. So I left and flew home. I don't honestly know if she was arrested or not because I can't find anything about the incident online. but she was in handcuffs the last I saw. I feel so bad. You know what? Despite OP feeling bad about the situation, the honest mistake, I don't think Karen should have gone around attacking TSA agents. Like, I understand being upset over that, but don't do something so stupid, right? Her being on the floor and in handcuffs was all her doing. Also, I'm pretty sure Karen was arrested because attacking a TSA agent is pretty severe. So this happened last weekend on Saturday morning, where my sense of self-entitlement got me in trouble and the cops involved. So on Saturday morning, I was helping my dad chop some wood, something he regularly does. And when I don't have anything planned for the weekends, I drop by and give him a hand. He has some land close to his house where we were chopping the wood. Between that land and my parents' house happens to be their neighbor's residence that also has quite a bit of land around it, more like a farm, where he has a lot of fruit trees, horses, etc. The guy is very, very wealthy. He's an old guy. After we're done with the wood, I was contemplating a huge cherry tree full of red and likely delicious cherries that, while inside the neighbor's property, were accessible from the road. My dad notices me eyeing the cherries, and he said, "Completely full of cherries, huh? But don't even think about it. That old guy complains about everything. Don't give him an excuse to be himself." My dad was still gathering some stuff, so I told him that I would meet him at his place and I would go in front to chat a bit with my mom before we have lunch. Using that road, I spot the old guy with his horses while I'm passing by the cherry tree. Well, since he's seeing me, there's no harm in picking one cherry, right? It'll be pretty much in front of the guy, and I'm just having one out of curiosity. It's not like I'm hiding and stealing. It should be harmless, right? Despite how allegedly annoying this guy is. So I looked him right in the face, picked one cherry, ate it, and it was in fact delicious. But yeah, no, it wasn't harmless. When I was walking by the entrance of the old man's farm, the guy was there. He was looking angry and he signals me with his hand for me to approach. And I thought, you've got to be kidding me. Now, I'm not gonna write the whole dialogue of the back and forth, but the guy very loudly accuses me of stealing from him, that I wasn't respectful towards other people's property. The guy was yelling at me so loudly that the people living close by could clearly hear this idiot shouting. At first, I really tried to defuse the situation, since despite how ludicrous the situation might be, I was the one who took something that wasn't mine. So I apologized a couple of times. But the guy just went on, and when he starts getting verbally aggressive, asking if I was mentally ill or just a thief, I kind of lost my composure a bit, and I asked him how sad and little he had to be for making a huge scene over one effing cherry. At that, the guy screams at me, saying, "It's the principle of it. I had enough of you when you and your stupid friends kept stealing fruit from me as kids." Now, this was false. I assume that to him, kids are all the same, and probably a lot of kids stole his cherries, apples, oranges, etc. But despite me being a brat as a kid, and I have indeed done my fair share of bad stuff in my days, I've never messed with this guy or his stuff before, mainly because he was my neighbor at the time. So it would immediately lead me to being grounded by proxy. In fact, I think I might have spoken with this idiot like twice before this encounter, many years ago when I still lived there. We got into an argument where I told him he was senile and that I've never taken anything from him before, and then sarcastically asked if he could ever forgive me for the valuable cherry I took from him. As I was moving away from him, I kept hearing him barking some stuff, which I assumed was insults. I spoke a bit with my mom while we waited for my dad, which was taking longer than we expected. When Dad finally arrived, his first words were, "You just had to do it, didn't you? Do you have effing ears? Because I told you not to mess with that crazy old man, but you couldn't resist." Basically, my dad took the same road as me, and the old man was also waiting for him, complaining about the situation and also getting verbally abusive towards my dad, concerning the way I was raised. So my dad, while also considering the situation the most ridiculous thing ever, still gives me a hard time for being an idiot. This upsets me for the rest of the day. Like, how can someone be so, well, like this? When I arrived home, my fiance was leaving for the rest of the afternoon, so it didn't help that I was gonna spend the afternoon alone, having time to focus on the situation. So I turned my PC on to play a game, but I just couldn't shake the situation out of my head. And this is where things start going downhill. I grab my keys, get into my car, and drive to the closest supermarket. I then buy a bag with 1 kilogram of cherries and one of those gift ribbons. Taped to the bag is a postal card saying something like, "I hope this gift can help you recover from your mental freakout. Sincerely, your favorite thief." And yes, I know this was childish, but what do you want from me? I then drive back, go to the cherry tree with the bag, and I was about to hang the bag on one of the branches when the old man appears out of nowhere, asking me what the F I was doing there, that I was trespassing on his property. I just smiled and said, "I come offering reparations for my errors." The guy looks at the bag and probably saw immediately that I was doing some kind of prank on him, and he also replies with a smile. He then says, "You do understand that you're trespassing on my property, don't you?" He then does a very loud whistle and he shouts for Pongo and another name I couldn't figure out. I immediately knew what was gonna happen, and I was right. The guy whistled for dogs to come at me. Now, I'm not gonna lie to you and try to make this story more scary than it was. It wasn't Rottweilers or German Shepherds or anything like that. In fact, it was 2 black Labradors, very fat and actually cute. They took a while to show up, which made the whole situation a little awkward, since none of us spoke a word till they arrived. We just stood there looking at each other. When they arrive, they immediately start to bark at me. They didn't run, but they were coming close, and taking no chances, I started to run, and I could hear the old man laughing behind me. I go home and stay there for the rest of the afternoon, all grumpy on my couch, feeling stupid. Close to dinner time, my girlfriend calls and says there were cops at the door, asking if I lived there and if they could speak with me. Is this really happening? I thought. I then go out to meet the 2 cops, who told me that Mr. Neighbor had called the cops because I trespassed, stole his cherries, and damaged his wall. One of them was actually quite friendly, and he listened to my whole story. I could tell that one of them was clearly making an effort not to laugh. They then tell me that this situation will most likely end there, that there was no damage to his wall, and the guy's known for calling police over everything, and they do try to ignore it as much as they legally can. They said that they'll contact my dad's neighbor and tell him that I was spoken to, and this won't happen again, and hopefully it'll suffice. When they're about to leave, and this is the most humiliating part, one of the officers says, "Man, how old are you?" To which I replied, "I'm 29. And while shaking his head, he tells me, "You should know better." He then leaves, not controlling his laughter this time. Yeah, this whole thing definitely could have been avoided. And I don't know how OP thought that taking a cherry in plain sight was the better thing to do. That said though, do you guys think it was an overreaction on the neighbor's part, or was the guy fully in the right for coming after OP for trespassing and stealing his single cherry? So this story happened a long time ago. It's about the time that my brother and I disobeyed our parents, and we got in a lot of trouble. The day before my parents went off to vacation in Bora Bora, they told my brother and I that while they're gone, we're not allowed to invite any of our friends over, because when we got together, we always got into some kind of trouble. Pretending to be good boys, we promised them that we wouldn't invite any friends over, as any mischievous teenager would say. This was really the first time that my parents had left my brother and I alone at the house for more than a few days, so they really had to put their faith in us. Well, after several days of them being gone and us having complete freedom, I suddenly realized that they would have no clue if my friends came over or not, while they were on such a remote island. And seriously, what could they do about it from all the way over there? I didn't have to tell them anything. So while my brother was at work, I texted my friends and I told them to come to our house to wait for my brother to come home so we could all go do something together. I was halfway through a movie when my friends came over, so we decided to finish that movie while we waited for my brother. My brother ends up getting a longer shift, so in our boredom, we decided that we wanted to prank him when he got home. My one friend suggested that we move everything in his room 2 inches to the left to see if that would mess with him. I then got the bright idea that not only should we do that, but we should move everything in the house 2 inches to the left. After one room of this prank, we decided it was so lame, so I came up with another idea. I told them, hey, what if we flipped over everything in the house and we made it look like the house got broken into, so my brother freaks out when he gets home. So we did just that. We turned over couches, beds, and chairs. We broke light bulbs on the ground. We even took all the valuable items in the house and we placed them in my truck, and then I drove it around the block. And honestly, if we were trying to make a movie set of a house that got broken into, we nailed it. I even opened the garage halfway to make it seem like someone had gotten in that way. I then turned off all the lights and I got out a super bright flashlight. After that, I called my brother and I told him that I was out late with some friends, so he would have to hold the fort down by himself. My plan was, when my brother opens the door, I would shine my flashlight in his face and then kick him in the leg and then run out of the garage. My brother would then see all the damage in the house and he would freak out. I would then come back and tell him it was all a joke, but that's not what happened. When my brother gets home, he calls me and he asked if I left the garage door open. I told him maybe, and that he should shut it when he got inside. Well, my brother, being a scaredy cat, got pretty spooked by the entire house being completely dark, and he didn't go in right away like I thought he would. That's when I accidentally turned on the flashlight and he saw it. The moment he saw the flashlight, he runs back to his car and he called the police and told them our house was being robbed. I of course ran outside and I called him and told him it was just a prank. He said he called the police already and they're on their way. That's when I said, well, uncall the police, we're freaking dead. But it was way too late. My brother came in the house and we decided to clean up the house before the police came, so it looked like we weren't robbing the place. We knew we were hosed when we saw the blue and red lights in front of our driveway. The officers came up to the door and they knocked super loudly, and they said to come out with our hands up. We of course obeyed, and that's when they told us to get on our knees in the front lawn. They then told us if we moved, we'd be shot. At this point, I was so scared. I told them it was all a prank, officer. And the one officer just yells back, I don't give an F. The officer questioned us for about 15 minutes with a gun on us, while his partner just searches the house. After a while, our neighbor comes home. She gets out of her car and she screams, no, don't shoot, they're good kids. They questioned her for a while and they finally told us that we were the stupidest effing kids alive and that they never wanted to come back to our house again. We thanked our neighbor for saving us and then we went back to sleep, which really meant that we were questioning every decision we've ever made. It was definitely one of the dumbest things that I've ever done in my life, and yes, my parents did find out. We obviously got in some big trouble, but my parents could see how shaken up we were, and we didn't die, so they weren't totally ruthless to us. Oh my goodness, talk about a prank gone completely wrong. And I just want to say that being a teenager once upon a time and doing some dumb crap when my parents told me not to, I think I know the exact fear that OP and his brother felt when they realized their parents were gonna find out. And in this case, it's way worse because cops got involved. I just find it so funny how they went from a harmless, let's move everything 2 inches to the left prank to staging a full robbery. And for anyone who's wondering if OP's brother noticed his things moved, OP says he did. And before we close off today's episode, the last OP tells a story about the time they messed up big time trying to get back at a lunch thief. In a shared hangar with several workshops, my friends and I rented a small space for our knife-making enterprise. For a year, our shared kitchen and fridge functioned harmoniously, with everyone respecting one another's food. However, an anonymous individual began stealing my sandwiches. They would consume half of each one, leaving bite marks as if to taunt me. Initially, I assumed it was a one-off incident, but when it occurred again, I was determined to act. I prepared sandwiches with an extremely spicy Carolina Reaper sauce, a teaspoon in each sandwich, and then left a note warning about the consequences of stealing someone else's food, and then went out for lunch. Upon my return, chaos reigned. The atmosphere was one of panic, and a woman's scream just cut through the commotion, accompanied by a child's cry. The culprit turned out to be our cleaner's 9-year-old son, who she had been bringing to work during his school's week off. He had made a habit of pilfering from the fridge, bypassing the healthy lunches his mother prepared, in favor of my sandwiches. The child was in distress, suffering from the intense spiciness of the sauce. In my defense, I explained that the sandwiches were mine, and that I had spiked them with hot sauce. The cleaner, initially relieved by my explanation, suddenly became furious, accusing me of trying to harm her child. This resulted in an escalated situation, with the cleaner reporting the incident to our landlord and threatening police intervention. Because of this, our landlord's given us a month to relocate, adding to our financial struggles. My friends are upset with me, and I maintain my innocence, arguing that I had no idea a child was the food thief, and I would never intentionally harm a child. Nevertheless, it seems I'm responsible, and I'm accused of creating a huge problem from a seemingly trivial situation. So am I the a-hole in this situation? Also, the child is okay. No harm to the health was inflicted. It was just an edible sauce, just very, very, very spicy. Yeah, I might be a little biased here because you guys know how much I hate lunch thieves. So I'm just gonna say that I don't think OP was the a-hole in this situation because there was no way of knowing that the food thief was a child. And again, we can argue here that if food isn't yours, don't eat it. And being 9 years old, that's old enough to read a note placed on the sandwich that says, "Don't touch," or whatever OP wrote. Like, the reaction of everyone involved is so bizarre. Like, she left her child unsupervised and he stole. Why are they punishing OP? That said though, I think OP would have gotten away with, "I just like my sandwiches incredibly spicy," instead of telling everyone that they spiked their food with Reaper hot sauce. Guys, let me know your thoughts. And that, my friends, brings us to another end of r/EntitledPeople. Guys, I hope you enjoyed today's stories. If you did, hit that thumbs up. And if you're not subscribed, consider subscribing so you don't miss these crazy stories. And if you missed the last episode on the channel, it's an r/malicious compliance episode, where people are getting back at their bosses and the stories are hilarious. Go check it out if you haven't, and myself and Stevie Boy will see you guys in the next one. We love you.